How's it going, everyone? It's Marshall. Thanks for tuning in. It's Sunday, October 8th. Whoa, I made it through another week. Hope y'all had a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. So I've got some new toys over here. Well, a new toy. This one, the D-05, arrived last week. I was a little sick, so it took me a couple days to really kind of start messing with this, but I did do kind of a quick little demo of the presets. Preset Bank 1. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the video. But I also picked up a SE-03, which I've kind of been playing with a little bit. I don't know that I'm going to use it in this particular track. I think I want to try and see if we can get something out of the D-05 for this tune that I've been working on the last couple sessions. So I'm going to just play what I have right now, and we can kind of work from there. But this is the new track using the SE-02 as kind of it's got a lead going on it that's been arpeggiated and a few other things going on. And I did work on this a little bit, but I didn't quite have the time to devote to it like I was hoping this last week because I've been sick. But I did work on it a little bit. Anyway, we'll kind of continue on it from here. So I'll just play it for you. All right, so that's where I'm at right now. So I did kind of thicken up the bass a little bit, just added some sub bass and a little bit of percussion, changed up a little bit of that in a few spots. But yeah, so we've got the JX-03 over here, and I was kind of messing around with this a little bit. But I'm not sure that it's going to really work well in this tune. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this over to the D-05. And here's the weird thing. The JX-03, and maybe it needs a firmware update. I'm not sure. But it just comes through as boutique, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, so we'll switch over to the D-05. Let me double check where that's plugged in here. D-05 is number 17 on my patch bass. Hang on. This might make a buzz. Actually, I'll just mute this just in case it does. And wait, what did I say it was? 17. So we'll go over like that. Let's check out the D-05. All right, so I'm going to kind of go through and let me kind of noodle around with some of the music going. So I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the presets here and see if we can find one that might work good in the tune. And we'll see if something will fit. You know, I'm sure we could find something, but if not, no worries. And we'll go from there. So that might work. Oh, we got Daska. What's up, buddy? Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, man, the D-05 is pretty sweet. I'm digging this thing quite a bit. I just got this last week. Yeah, I've been itching to get a D50 again, so this will satisfy that craving. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm kind of liking this patch. Let's see, what is this? This is Rainforest. It's Patch Bank 2, preset 61. The problem I'm having right now is kind of through the groove part. I kind of want to put another melody on top of that, but I need to find something that will work, at least in some respect, with the kind of the main chorus part, the more trancy-ness bits, if that makes sense. So I'll keep noodling around here and see what I can come up with, and hopefully at the end of the day it'll be good. And if not, then I'll just have to start over. Yep. All right, so I'll keep working. Alright, now we gotta see if we can fix my shitty playing. I think that'll kind of fit nice, and maybe I'll run 2 bars without it, 2 bars with it, and then transition back into the kind of the break and build back into the chorus, and we'll see if that'll do the trick for me here. So actually, I'm gonna change this freaking background because I cannot see the grid. But in the future, I'll probably end up using this particular color. I kind of should have probably used this darker color when I was doing my comparison between the Mini Moog and the SE-02. The oscilloscope I found, unfortunately, had like a light blue color for the waveforms, and it was on a light gray background. It was kind of hard to see, and I should have probably changed that. But so I was kind of going through these the other day to see what options they have for backgrounds, and I put it on disco. But let's see. I need something with a lighter color so I can see that. Well, not like that. That's pretty ugly, actually. And I can't remember what I had it on. Light gray, no. Oh, well, and here's the other thing. I had messed with these. I can't remember if the hue's supposed to be on 0. Probably not. Probably 100. Oh god, that's ugly. See, now I'm in trouble because I messed with this and I don't remember what the original settings are. Default clay. Return to default. There we go. Let's do all that. There we go. There we go. I think this is kind of my normal one on this machine. There we go. Now I can see the grid. And I can move my shit over. Yeah, as you can tell there, DOSGOS, I got myself into some trouble with the colors there for a minute. In a way, it's kind of cool that you can really customize the look of Ableton, but at the same time, yeah, you can make some really ugly looking shit. You don't know what you're doing, which I do not. So... moving notes. And I think I'm starting to run into some latency issues as well with all the live equipment that's now running here, because I've got the TR8, the TR09, the SE-02, and the D-05 now, all demanding resources for playback. So I may have to do some adjustments to this once I get it on the grid here. Um, so the lead, which is the SE-02, well, actually, so for this particular part, kind of the D-05 will be the lead synthesizer, doing the lead. But for the main melody here, like, let me find one, this one. Yeah, these I played and then kind of manually quantized them. But then it's got an arpeggiator running on it for the SE-02. If we go into it here. And so that's what's kind of giving it the melody. There's a way to like automatically quantize stuff as you play it, I believe, but I've never had good experiences using the quantizing. So like it never really puts it on the grid where I need it to be or want it to be, I guess. So I tend to just do it manually with the tool after I play whatever I want here. And actually, let me rename this to the D-05. But that's all kind of a preference thing. Either way you go about putting things in time. There's no wrong way for that. That's some good questions there, Doscos. Yeah, there's going to be latency introduced in any kind of DAW with live instruments when you're triggering stuff outside of the computer. And there's ways to kind of work around it. And what I tend to do is, even though I can hear that parts of this are a little bit off after snapping to the grid, so to speak, I'm going to end up shifting this a little bit with the track delay to try and get it a little bit better in time. But you don't have to quantize anything. So like when I played it live, it probably sounded actually pretty good, but there were some parts that still needed to be cleaned up. So I mean, that again is just when you're working in with external equipment, you're going to run into some of those kind of issues, and it's just a process to kind of go through and tighten everything back up if you want it that way. You know, if you're good enough to play live and have it be perfect, then you're all good. But I'm not the best keyboard player by far. So this is kind of how I go through and try and get these things all lined back up. But yeah, it's a little time consuming. It can be a pain. Oh, I guess I'm a little confused on what the question is. So it doesn't sound as mechanical as the rest of the stuff in the track, correct? And I think that part of the reason for it sounding more, I guess, organic is the fact that I'm playing on a keyboard rather than drawing everything in here. You're gonna, to me, like, and this is why I like to play stuff out and then kind of go back and fix a few things here and there if I need to. The process of, like, trying to explain this in a good way, I'm not sure if I'm able to, but when I first started creating music, I didn't have any external equipment like this, and I didn't even have a MIDI keyboard. I would just draw the notes in. And when you do that, you can run into an issue where all your stuff sounds very mechanical because it's perfect. Everything's perfect. Whereas playing on a keyboard, you get some nuance in there, and you're not exactly perfect on everything, and it kind of adds... You can get some good flow out of it, I guess. Okay. Cool. I hope I answered it good. But yeah, so it's just a matter, I think, being able to play on a keyboard, you're going to get a more fluid result than just drawing everything in, unless you are really good at programming notes and adding those nuances that you would get as if you were playing, I guess, is the best way I can kind of explain that. So yeah, so if you're new to DAWs and music creation, my recommendation would be, even if you're working with all plugins for your synths and everything, would be to get a MIDI keyboard. That will, for me anyway, personally, it helps me come up with ideas. And even if you're not the best keyboard player, you learn some scales and a few things like that, and you can kind of at least come up with some synth lines and some melodies and stuff to construct songs around, or bass lines, or things like that. And I think it's a little more, it helps me in the creative process having a keyboard versus drawing everything. So that would be my tip. Whoops, I hit that delete button too many times there. Can I undo? Undo. Come back. I deleted like 3 tracks. Oops. There we go. I was just trying to rename this correctly. I got a little carried away. Alright. So I like this patch, but I kind of want to see what other patches we have on the D-05. It might work. Maybe something's a little better than this. So I'm just going to make a mental note here of P261. And I should probably write it down somewhere. So why don't we do this? This is one of the things I wish Ableton had, and it's in Pro Tools where you can add notes underneath little notes and stuff in the tracks. And I used to do stuff like this all the time, of like patches and stuff that I liked. I would just put a note. Oh, I like that one patch. P. There we go. And to my knowledge, there's not a way to do that in Ableton, but it's okay. That's why Microsoft invented Notepad. All right, so we'll see if we can find some other stuff, and then I think we'll probably kind of leave it there. I'm sorry, I was not going to get a huge amount done here tonight, but this next week I've been feeling a lot better from my illness, so hopefully I'll be able to knock this track out most of the way, if not all the way, this next week, and then in the follow-up live stream. Hopefully I'll have a finished product to show you guys, which would be really cool. And I'm getting close. Wrapping up my trance style album that I've been working on the last few months, and that'll be very exciting. This will be one of the tunes if it comes out good. And there's a few other ones that I had worked on the last few months that were part of the live streams and stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then from there, we'll kind of see what happens. I have been kind of picking up some equipment to do some chiptune stuff, and so maybe I'll try and do some hybrid, house music or something with some chiptune type stuff. I think that might be fun, but we'll see. We'll see where things take us. So this is one of the final tracks. I think maybe I want to do one more after this for that album. But what I might do is take an older track and kind of spruce it up and make it pretty and well done for the album, and hopefully that'll all do good. I'm hoping. So, all right, let's play around with some D50 sounds here for that little melody that I wrote, and let's see if anything else kind of works for this part of the song. Speaking of the chiptune, that sounds kind of chiptune-y. That's kind of weird. I wasn't expecting that. Let's see. Let me just solo that for a second and see what that sounds like. Alright, so it sounds like shitty chiptune, but that was kind of surprising to hear that. Oh, you know what, Dasgas, one thing I just kind of noticed when just listening to this here, the other thing that's happening when you play a synth line versus draw it all in is the variation in velocity can add dynamic, I guess, the velocity, the changes in velocity in real time playing on the keys can add a sense of more realism, I guess, if that makes sense as well. And that's something that you can definitely simulate, snapping stuff to the grid and just manually, if we go into this again, you can see kind of how the velocity, these are the velocity amounts. So all the way up means, we're pressing the key as hard as it'll go and register an amount. Usually velocity is 0 to 127, which is what they show here. But as I was playing these, you can see we've got variation in the how hard I was pressing the keys. And so certain sounds will give you there'll be changes within the sound depending on the velocity. So that's another reason why it probably sounds less mechanical, if that makes sense. So I just kind of thought about that as I was listening to that, because I can hear the changes in the velocity from when I played it. But anyway, hope that helps as well. So, yeah, so that's totally true, man. A lot of early '90s house style leads on here for sure. This was super popular back in the day, and it's funny to well, it's cool I think, but also kind of funny like retrospectively, looking back at the D50 and the D-05, which is what this is basically, and hearing some of these sounds that you heard in the tracks of the day, so to speak, right? I think that's really neat. But just because for grins here, I want to take this particular sound, I want to toss some delay and some other processing on it, and I just want to kind of get a feel for what that would sound like. So I love ping pong delay. I think hopefully everyone loves ping pong delay, but let's just see how that sounds. Sounds pretty fucking dope. I don't know if it fits with the rest of the aesthetic of the track, but that's pretty cool. That's the marimba. So I want to play through the rest of the track with this marimba sound and just see what that sounds like. I think that's actually kind of cool. Let's see how it fits in the rest of everything else here. I actually like that kind of a lot. Maybe I can do both eventually, but for now, since I've only got one deal, you know what we could do? Here's what we could try. The Roland D50 plugin. But real quick, what I want to do here, I'm going to duplicate this scene, and I'm going to take the D-05 out of the first set. That'll come in as a secondary piece. And yeah, let's toss in a new track, and let's go grab our D50 plugin. Now, I have had issues with this plugin in the past, especially after working on a track and you got a lot of stuff going on, and the D-05 plugin would not respond correctly sometimes, like wouldn't load patches and do some weird shit. But I did see that there was an update to it, and the last time I used it, it seemed to work fine. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is going to work okay. So again, let's see if we can find that preset that I liked. Now these are a little bit, these might be a little bit different, but I think they're the same. Preset bank 2. That's 30. I don't know if it's in here. It's gonna be, might be the issue. But hold on one sec. Let's see. So our marimba one. Just gonna write this down. This is preset bank 4 patch P4 patch 41, and I'm gonna put the name in here this time. Marimba. And then I'm gonna go look at the other one. Oop. And that was preset bank 2. $61. There we go. Rainforest. That's right. Oh, and I've got my caps lock on. Rainforest. All right. Let's see if Rainforest is in our patch list here. Yeah, it would probably be in this one. In the 6s. I don't see it. Even if the marimba one's in here, I think that would be fine. Oh, I'm sorry, we're being 4. Right? Fuck, I don't know. Ethnic 5th. Not seeing it, but yeah, that's a bummer. What up, Mr. Boot? What's happening, brother? Yeah, that's crazy. So they've, yeah, the D-05 has all of the D-50 ROM cards that were released, at least first-party ones from Roland. So that's probably, my guess is they're not, those cards are not in here on the plugin. I don't know. But, oh well, it was worth a shot. What I might try, because I think that you can import and export patches on here. Let me see if I can remember how to get into that. patch. Here we go. So you can load patches. So what I could do is do a D-05 dump onto my PC, and then load the patch that I'm looking for in, and then voila, then that'll work. Yeah, so Mr. Boot, I was just looking. So we've been going through some sounds on the D-05 with the track that we've been working on, and I was thinking about using one and then another one as well, but I've only got one D-05, so I figured we'd check the D50 plugin to see if it had the same sound, but we can't find it. So anyway. So I think what I'll do, I'll just play through what I've got here at this point again, and then we'll wrap it up here for tonight. And then we'll keep working on this throughout the week. And hopefully I'll be able to wrap this up next week and move on to some other stuff. So obviously that was back on that rainforest, and I needed to shift the track delay on that, but that's okay. That stuff I'll work out through this week, and I'll try doing some layering with the D-05 and the D-50 plugin. That'd be cool. So yeah, Mr. Boot, you were asking about doing a breakbeat. Let me see if I can actually. I've done some breakbeat stuff actually way a long time ago. I released a track called Inside, or not Inside Your Radio. That was a trance or electro house tune. I did. Oh, what the hell was that one called? Blow Up the Radio. Blow Up the Radio was the one breakbeat style track that I released way a long time ago. We're talking like 2007. Yeah, so I mean, I've done some breakbeat stuff. I used to actually incorporate some of the breakbeat styles in trance songs even sometimes, where like there'd be a break and then I'd start doing some breakbeats and then go back to the 4/4 and those types of things. That might be fun to revisit some of that at some point. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it tonight, guys. I appreciate you all stopping by and watching the live stream. And the D-05, I'm really liking it. I think that I was kind of, when I did kind of the announcement video and I was talking about it when Roland announced it, I was a little concerned that having the D50 style interface on a boutique, but actually I think it's a lot easier to approach than the original D50. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised with it, even though, you know, the programming of it's still going to be a little bit difficult. It's not as bad as I was thinking it would be. Like, in other words, I think that I could manage working on this thing without needing a PG-1000 necessarily, although that makes things a lot easier. And as you can see in the plugin, you can load and save patches in the D50 plugin, and you can import those into here. So that's also an alternative. And then there was another editor, software editor that I had seen that kind of emulates the PG-1000. That might be something worth exploring as well, just for grins. So yeah, maybe if I do any experimenting with that, I'll definitely put a video up on the channel for that. If you guys are interested in having me do anything like that, just let me know. You know, then I'll definitely put the time in for it. So yeah, so that's where I think we're going to leave it here tonight. And yeah, I'm getting confused with which mouse I need. So yeah, thanks again to the chat room, Mr. Dosgos and Mr. Boot. I appreciate you guys showing up here. Yeah, Mr. Boot, don't worry, man. We're not going to be doing trance stuff forever, so I know you hate it. But yeah, we'll be moving on to some other stuff pretty soon. Let's see. All right. Yep. So have a good one, guys. Peace out.